Welcome to the Sex is Good podcast. This is a podcast about the science of sex. Because the more you understand it, the more that guilty little impulse starts to feel, well, healthy.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Anna. Let's get into it.
Today we're going to talk about the sexy history of Valentine's Day. Why would we do that, Anna? Well, because sex has always been a part of Valentine's Day, and knowing that can help people enjoy themselves just a little bit more. It's also interesting. And the third reason, Anna, is that, well, being smart is sexy, right?
It really is. When you've got something clever to say when you're having that Valentine's Day conversation, like, hey, I know something unique here.
Ooh,
that can be a lean in moment, like, ooh, tell me more. And then all of a sudden, things can keep going in a better place.
Now, everybody's probably noticed that we changed the name of the podcast. That would be the elephant in the room, Anna. So let's talk about that. Of course, I'm still the founder of Shameless Care, and Anna's helping me. This is essentially the same podcast, but we changed the name for this simple reason. We had done 70 shows over about, what would you say, 9 months or so, Anna?
Right about there, yeah.
And downloads were increasing, but not really at the rate that we wanted. And we got some sound advice that most people don't know what Shameless Care is. So the title, The Shameless Care Podcast, probably doesn't resonate to many people who are just scrolling through their podcast feed, right?
That's right.
Makes total sense. So all we want to do, guys, is open the umbrella. So more people who happen to see us in their podcast feed stop and give it a chance. Plus, I just think it's a better title because what we're really trying to do here, everybody, is say that sex is really good. And the more that you know about it, for example, STIs, which we're going to talk about in one of the first segments today, the more you know about them, the less scary they are and the better you're going to feel about sex.
That's right. It's one of those things where knowledge, it's empowering in this case, and it makes sex better.
If you are new here, everybody, thank you for stopping by. We have a few different segments. The first is the dirty joke of the week, where we just have a little bit of fun. And if you don't like it, it only lasts a few seconds. And then we have our foreplay segment, where we talk about some news, some sex news from the week. And then we have our main event, where today we're talking all about that really, really sexy history of Valentine's Day.
It'll be a great podcast and definitely worth a listen.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and have that dirty joke of the week. So this is the part of the show where I tell a dirty joke and the beautiful Anna judges it. And if she gives it a thumbs up, then we hear a... But if she gives it a thumbs down, and sometimes they're very well-deserved thumbs down, then we all hear this sound. Without further ado, Anna, here we go.
Here we go.
On one particularly slow day, Superman was flying in circles with absolutely nothing to do. He looked around with his X-ray vision and happened to notice Wonder Woman lying on a bed, spread eagle, and stark naked. Superman decided to get a little action, so he flew down, boned her super fast, and took off. Somewhat startled, Wonder Woman exclaimed, "What was that?" The Invisible Man got off of her and replied, "I don't know, but it hurt like hell." I almost didn't go with that joke because it implies a lack of consent, let's say, but hopefully everybody understands it's just a made-up story.
Well, I remember that joke from when I was a kid in the 90s. So that was a blast from the past joke for me.
All right, Anna, well, let's go ahead and have some foreplay. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay, Anna, well, everybody knows that I'm really interested in the science of sex, and that's what we talk about on the podcast, and it's what our company, Shameless Care, is all about. And recently, I've noticed more and more data, at least as I look for it, right? You can see a little bit of something and you dig into it a little bit further, of this idea of how often people's anal swabs for particularly chlamydia come up positive, even amongst people who do not have anal sex. And this is really, really common in women, where a lot of studies show like a 6, 7, 8% of heterosexual women have an active anal chlamydia infection, believe it or not, Anna.
That's a pretty darn high number.
But here's something that's probably even more surprising to people. A 2019 study from Indiana found that 2 out of 84 self-identified heterosexual men which was 2.4%, had rectal chlamydia despite denying any lifetime receptive anal sex. The men did not report any other sexual activities involving their anus. Here's another one, Anna. In a Chinese cross-sectional study of STD clinic attendees from 2018 to 2020, rectal chlamydia was detected in 1.3% of male patients with the exact same situation. By comparison, 7.8% of female patients in the same clinic had rectal chlamydia. So that begs the question, okay, how are people getting rectal chlamydia then if they're not having any anal sexual contact? Well, that's the really interesting part of this story. Let's go ahead and get into that.
Yeah, I've got some predictions and theories. I wonder if I'm right.
The leading hypothesis is that infection may occur through oral sex exposures that lead, get this everybody, to gastrointestinal seedings of chlamydia. In the cited 2019 study, the men with rectal chlamydia had engaged in cunnilingus, but no anal play. This suggests that they might have ingested chlamydia from the infected partner's genital secretions and then survived transit through the digestive tract to infect the rectal tissues. Supporting this, and this was news to me, Anna, laboratory evidence shows that chlamydia can remain viable in acidic gastric conditions and has been found in gastrointestinal tissues, including the colon, in humans. Isn't that wild?
That is very fascinating.
So we have STI testing at shamelesscare.com, and every test includes an anal swab and an oral swab. And a lot of people don't want to do the anal swab, and I get it. It's kind of gross, and it's not uncomfortable. It's a tiny little thing, but it just goes to show that you should probably do it anyway.
It's a test that's really not all that uncomfortable. It's extremely quick, and you can get results without a whole lot of drama or trauma.
Now, we said the point of the podcast was to make people feel better about sex, and now here we are saying everybody's got anal chlamydia. Be careful. It will survive your stomach. Guys, chlamydia is really not a big deal. It's the reason to get STI tested, whenever you can if you're sexually active. But Anna, what does it take to cure chlamydia?
Just a simple dose of antibiotics.
Yeah, a week of doxycycline. It's asymptomatic in most people. Most of these people in this study did not even know that they had it. It's no reason to not live your life and enjoy yourself, right, Anna?
Oh, yeah. Chlamydia rolls right over. It just submits to doxycycline very quickly, which is great.
That's right. Anna, are you ready for the main event?
I am.
Let's get one thing out of the way right now.
Valentine's Day did not start as a sweet holiday.
And it did not start as a romantic holiday.
It absolutely did not start as a polite holiday either.
Valentine's Day started as a fertility holiday, which is just a nicer way of saying it started as a sex festival.
And that explains a lot of why a lot of the impressions are what they are today.
To really understand Valentine's Day, you've got to stop thinking about candy hearts and start thinking about survival, reproduction, and people trying to make it through another winter without dying.
Well, Robert, let's begin in ancient Rome, because Rome is where most things got weird.
In ancient Rome, mid-February was a big deal. Winter was ending, crops needed to grow, women needed to get pregnant, babies needed to survive.
So Romans celebrated a festival called Lupercalia. That was usually around February 15th.
And this was not optional, it wasn't cute, and it wasn't romantic.
It was a full-blown fertility ritual.
All right, so here's what actually happened, everybody. A group of young men named the Luperci would gather near a cave called the Lupercal. This cave was important because Roman mythology said that Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome, were raised there by a wolf.
Yes, a wolf. Rome already starts really feral in this.
They would sacrifice goats. Sometimes they would sacrifice a dog. Blood was involved. This part is not symbolic. This was literal animal sacrifice.
Then the men would strip down, sometimes fully naked, sometimes wearing, basically nothing but a thong.
They would cut strips of goat skin from the sacrificed animals and run through the city whipping people.
Mostly women.
And here's the thing that modern people struggle with. Women lined up for this.
They wanted to be whipped.
Because everyone believed that being struck by the goat hide increased fertility, made pregnancy easier, and even helped with childbirth.
If you are thinking, that sounds unhinged, well, congratulations. You live in a world with ultrasound and antibiotics. They didn't have any of this. They had to do with what they had.
Back then, fertility was life or death. Childbirth killed women. Infertility was devastating. If someone said, this weird little ritual might help, people were not asking follow-up questions. They were willing to do it.
This was not considered sexual assault, by the way. It was a religious ritual that was tied to reproduction and health.
Was it sexual?
Yes.
Was it chaotic?
Absolutely.
Was it Roman?
Well, extremely, yes.
People drank and people laughed. The streets were packed. This was a sanctioned day of physical contact and social lucidness.
This is important. The earliest ancestor of Valentine's Day was not about romance. It's about reproduction.
Sex, bodies, fertility, and survival, Anna. But then Christianity entered the chat. But before we get into that, Anna, I'd like to take a quick break. We have 2 brand new sexual health medications at shamelesscare.com. One of which is bremelanotide or PT141. The other one is called Shameless Trio. Both of those medications, the great thing about them is that they increase sexual arousal. One in both men and women and another one in men. It's really exciting. So what I invite everybody to do, because these 2 medications launch on February 25th, is go to shamelesscare.com. And then up at the top of the screen, you'll see Learning Center. Go to the podcast page. Enter your email there at the podcast page. And Anna, what's going to happen when they enter their email?
Well, they're not going to be slammed with emails like a lot of other companies. They'll just get some really informative, great emails and early access to these meds and knowing when the discounts and those types of things are coming.
Yeah, they launch on February 25th, and of course you can unsubscribe at any time, but I think you would be remiss to not do this because they are going to be at a huge discount, and of course you would have first availability. Our doctors are going to start writing prescriptions for these medications to people who it helps on February 25th. You ready to get back to the show, Anna?
Let's do it.
So, Anna, we talked about ancient Rome and this fertility ritual, but then here comes the Christians. Let's talk about that. How did that change what we now know as Valentine's Day?
Well, Christianity did become dominant in Rome over time, and Christian leaders looked at Lupercalia and said, no, absolutely not.
Public nudity, pagan gods, ritual whippings, drinking?
That was not really on the Christian brand.
No, it is not. By the late 400s AD, church leaders openly condemned Lupercalia as obscene and immoral.
Eventually, they put an end to the holiday, but here's where people tell a very clean story that isn't quite true.
You'll often hear that Valentine's Day was created to replace Lupercalia, but that's not exactly what happened.
What actually happened is messier and less intentional.
The church already had a saint named Valentine, or possibly more than one Valentine. Records are not completely clear on that.
What we do know is that Valentine was a Christian martyr executed in the 3rd century.
And by the late 5th century, February 14th was declared St. Valentine's Feast Day.
And at first, this had nothing to do with love. It was just another saint's day.
People went to church. They remembered a martyr. That was it.
No romance, no sex, and no cards.
Just a dead guy.
A dead saint, yes.
So, Anna, let's talk about how Valentine accidentally became sexy again.
For a few centuries, Valentine's Day was basically irrelevant.
Then the Middle Ages happened, and medieval Europe became obsessed with love.
Specifically, courtly love.
Knights writing poems, people longing for each other, romance as an emotional experience rather than just a marriage contract.
This is where everything changes. In the 1300s, Chaucer writes a poem where he casually mentions that on St. Valentine's Day, birds choose their mates. That's it, one line.
But that line really sticks, and suddenly Valentine's Day is associated with pairing off.
Nature chooses mates, people choose mates.
And the idea spreads.
Poets start writing Valentine's poems, nobles start exchanging love notes. The concept of my Valentine is born.
By the early 1400s, people are writing actual letters to each other calling someone their Valentine.
One of the earliest surviving Valentine messages is from a French duke imprisoned in England, writing to his wife and calling her my very gentle Valentine.
And Anna, do you know where he was imprisoned?
I have no idea.
The Tower of London. We've been there.
Yes, we have.
Another famous early Valentine letter is from a woman named Marguerite Bruce in 1477, begging her beloved to marry her and calling him her, quote, right well beloved Valentine, end quote.
That is not subtle.
No, it's emotional and romantic and maybe a little desperate.
Valentine's Day became a socially acceptable day to say things you might not normally be able to do, or maybe you were too embarrassed to say.
Here's something that people often forget, Anna. Early Valentine's Day was not just for married couples.
In fact, it often wasn't.
Valentine's Day was tied to flirting, longing, and sometimes even forbidden attraction.
Courtly love, and no, not Courtney love, but courtly love often meant loving someone you couldn't have or shouldn't have.
Valentine's poems were sometimes written to people who were not your spouse.
Was it always consummated? No, not necessarily.
But the emotional and sexual tension was there. This is still sex adjacent. Anna, let's talk about early modern Valentine's Day.
By the 16 and 1700s, Valentine's Day got chaotic again.
This is where we see Valentine lotteries.
People would gather, write their names on slips of paper, put them in a bowl, and draw a name.
Whoever you drew was your Valentine. Anna, this reminds me of what people said swingers did back in the 70s with the key party.
Names in a bowl, and you're stuck with who you got.
I don't think it was quite that sexual, but still.
Well, that Valentine was your Valentine for the day and sometimes longer, right, Robert?
Yeah, but what did that mean?
Well, you were expected to give them attention, compliments, and sometimes gifts.
You might walk around wearing their name pinned to your clothing.
You might dance together, sit together, flirt openly.
This was a socially approved excuse to interact romantically with someone you might not normally approach.
Did this always turn into sex? No.
Did it sometimes?
Almost certainly.
So there are diary entries from this period describing married men receiving visits from mistresses on Valentine's morning.
People covered their eyes in the morning so they didn't accidentally see the wrong person first, because whomever you saw first could become your Valentine.
This was playful, flirty, occasionally messy.
Valentine's Day was still about pairing off, but now with randomness and social games layered in.
So let's talk about the Victorian period, Anna.
Well, you and I have talked about Victorians and their obsession with romance before in previous podcasts, but they also loved repression.
And this is when Valentine's Day became sentimental instead of chaotic. So poetry, lace, flowers, hearts, that sort of thing.
It's also when it became commercial. Printing technology improved, mail became cheaper, and cards started to be mass-produced.
Instead of writing your own emotional confession, you can buy one.
This is also when chocolates entered the picture.
Heart-shaped chocolate boxes appear in the 1800s because nothing says love like sugar and dopamine, right, Anna?
I feel like we should name a medicine after that, sugar and dopamine.
But even in the Victoria era, Valentine's Day still had an edge.
There were vinegar valentines designed to insult people.
There were flirtatious cards.
There were coded messages.
It wasn't all wholesome. It was just more polite. Vinegar valentines, Anna. Who would you send one of those to?
I plead the fifth.
Maybe your co-host. Who knows? Well, now let's finally get into modern Valentine's Day, Anna.
Well, that brings us to the 20th century, and Valentine's Day is a full-blown, fully established holiday.
Cards, flowers, candy, jewelry.
Sex is implied rather than explicitly announced.
Depends upon how good the jewelry is, I guess.
But let's be honest, Valentine's Day still has a lot of sex involved with it.
It's about coupling, attraction, desire, pairing off.
Hotel bookings go up.
Condom sales go up.
And dating app activity spikes.
We just don't whip each other with goat skin anymore. But,
thank God.
But I'm kind of an old-fashioned guy, so I think I might try that. Where can I get a goat these days?
My cousin's backyard. But anyway, the modern version of Valentine's Day is quieter, cleaner, and monetized.
But the core has not changed. So, Anna, what is the point?
The point is this: Valentine's Day has always been about bodies, desire, and reproduction.
We didn't invent that. We just inherited it.
From the naked Romans.
From medieval poets.
From flirty lotteries.
From love letters written in prison.
The holiday didn't become sexual, it started sexual.
We just put a little nicer wrapper on it and, of course, have made it completely commercialized.
That's very true.
Well, once you know that, Anna, the whole thing makes a lot more sense. Are you ready for some aftercare?
I am.
All right, in an effort to make the show a little bit more fun, again, we're trying to open the umbrella. So we want to talk about sexual health. We're actually going to talk about HIV in the next episode, but we want to make it fun so more people are listening. Because what's the point if not that many people are listening, right, Anna?
Well, sure. And the more people who listen, the more sexually informed people we can have.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, Anna, I'm going to ask you 10 questions, which you have not heard yet.
No, I haven't.
About Valentine's Day, and we're all going to see how you do, and the audience can play along as well. What do you say?
A love pop quiz. Oh boy, here we go.
All right. Now, according to the National Retail Federation, what was the top gift people planned to give loved ones on Valentine's Day last year?
Well, I must say, just by being a grocery shopping person and the fact that I love it with every part of my body, chocolate would be that particular gift.
Yeah, absolutely. And 57% of people said candy.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, Anna. Now, how many roses are produced for Valentine's Day every year?
Oh, it must be millions. Like millions.
I need a guess.
An actual number. Okay, I'm going to say... well, I'll say 14 million.
14 million. Yeah, it's 250 million. Can you believe that?
Holy crap. That's crazy.
All right. How much money are Americans expected to spend in total on Valentine's Day, according to the National Retail Federation?
Americans, let's see, all these couples out there, they're spending money on gifts and dinner. I'd say... $1 billion.
$14.2 billion. Now, here would be my question. What percentage of that is spent by men? Because it must be like 90%.
I don't know about that. I know a lot of women who cook very elaborate meals for families. For us, it was always pink mashed potatoes and heart-shaped meatloaf. So that was our fun family tradition.
On average, how much do people plan to spend on Valentine's Day for their loved ones? This is an individual.
$300.
$185.81. Now, Anna, here's a good question. February 14th is celebrated as National Chocolate Day in which country?
Switzerland.
Ghana. Now, I don't know how you could possibly know.
I was like, where's the place with lots of chocolate? Like...
Which ancient culture believed that chocolate was a gift from the gods?
Aztec.
I cannot believe you got that. You're exactly right. Yeah.
All right. My history just stuck with me a little bit.
You got a smart one over here, everybody. All right. If you don't get this one, I'm throwing you out.
Okay.
Which TV show is credited with starting the Valentine's Day tradition?
Oh, this is one of my favorite TV shows ever, Parks and Rec.
There you go. I knew that was totally an Anna question. According to Hallmark, how many Valentine's Day cards are exchanged each year? Now, we're going to exclude those given out in classrooms.
Well, let's see. Usually you give one to your mom, sometimes your other loved ones. So I would say 750 million.
145 million. So I don't think everybody's giving them out to like extended family members like you are.
Okay. Well, I have a lot of love to share.
All right, Anna. What tune did Billboard name as their top love song of all time?
I don't know, something by Barry White.
Endless Love by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie.
Wow. All right.
Now, I think it should have been Meatloaf's I Will Do Anything for Love, but I won't do that. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We're going to do one show a week now. We're going to try to make them a little more lighthearted and again, the name change and everything like that. But we just thank you guys so much for being with us, and we'll talk in a few days.
And let us know what you think about the changes. We'd love to have your feedback.
Absolutely. Talk soon.